Hello there, wonderful friends. My apologies for getting this posted a few days late, but hope this finds you well and doing better than where we were last week. But this will be kind of a short little video this week to address the lessons from Doctrine and Covenants, lessons 6 and 7. And I want to begin with a scenario, or I guess maybe have you think of it this way. Let's say you were invited to teach a primary class about Revelation. Pause the video. I want you to go through this process. Pause it, take 4 or 5 minutes, and create a really quick, short lesson plan even. But I'm purposely not calling it steps, but process. How would you teach that to young children, primary age? And then come back to me after you've taken a few minutes to kind of go through that. I think for each of you watching this video, you probably came up with some different thoughts and different ideas on what that process looks like, and as it should be, actually. I would imagine that there are different components to it. And I think the process of learning to not only talk to God, but have the ability to hear Him back is different for each of us and is a process. One of the things that may or may not be on your list, maybe it may not be this way specifically, but I think one of the important things that is valuable to remember in the process of revelation is something that almost always, I think, not always, but almost always, I believe, that questions precede revelation. And I know in many ways that might sound obvious, like, oh, yeah, I have a question, and I need Heavenly Father's help. I think in many instances, questions are the catalyst for revelation. And I do just want to kind of say really quick in reference to revelation, I think that's such a personal thing and that looks differently for all of us. But I do think there are some components that help us experience it, and not just as like a one-time singular event, but as kind of a part of our life, that we do things that allow us to be connected through heaven, to our Heavenly Father. But I do think questions are there. You may ask questions about guidance of employment, marriage, all those things. We're typically asking questions. But I also think on a gospel front, asking questions about whatever doctrine or principle that we might want to understand better or even gain a testimony of, questions are never a bad thing. And I'm saying that, and this will be a pretty quick summary, but as the sections that were a part of the lesson this week, as you look at some of the events that occurred, they occurred because there were questions. There were questions that were asked. And I think sometimes when we look back at church history, it might seem a little bit odd of questions that were asked or what they were thinking, but they were learning this as they went. We might take for granted just structure even of the restored gospel now, but that was a process for them as well. And in section 7 and in section 13, there were some questions asked. In section 7 comes because Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery had differing opinions about the Apostle John and what happened to him. And that's why we get section 7. And in section 13, this is during the translation of the Book of Mormon, and a question about baptism comes up. So both of these sections come because of a question, and I wanted to just point out that the revelation came because it was preceded with a question. Those can be sacred things, and my invite that I give to you in connection to that is that you ask questions on a daily basis, that you're asking questions regularly and seeking answers as you ask them. So do me a favor if you would, and I'm going to go and see if I can escape here without losing the video, but go with me if you would to section, there we go, I didn't lose you. Go with me to section Doctrine and Covenants, if you would. And I want you to go to section 15. I'll put it up here on the screen so you can read it, or you can read it on your phone or whatever. But just, I'm going to go silent for here. You can either pause this or do it, but I want you to read this section. And now I want you to read section 16. Now, as you look at this, I want you to look at the section heading. I should have told you not to read that first. Just read the verses. But you'll notice that this says that this was an intimate and impressively personal message from the Lord, basically to John Whitmer. So you read this section and you're like, this is amazing, right? The Lord speaking directly to him. Well, then you go to section 16 where it's to Peter, and what do you notice? That thing's almost dang word for word. And here we're told in this section, sorry if you're getting seasick, me going back and forth, but this was an intimate and a personal message. Why would that be the case when basically the same thing is said? You may have your thoughts, and I'd love for you to explore that. I think one thing to consider is, in many ways, that's how the Lord works. Look at General Conference. How often we hear the same message, but it can be an intimate and a personal message. And look at the scriptures. We all read the same words, yet there can be a personal and intimate message there. I think this is related, and I love this part of this talk because it makes me laugh, but I want to play a part of the talk from President Uchtdorf at the time that I think is connected to this idea. I just love the message taught, and I share it as I close this with you is, and to repeat what President Uchtdorf, Elder Uchtdorf says, we're not the same. We have unique spirits. We're influenced in different ways by our experiences, and each of us ends up different as a result. I'm amazed that God can give us words like scriptures, like conference talks that are the exact same, yet they can be intimate and personal to us because we are different and we have different experiences. I hope and pray as you seek revelation, you remember that, and that you remember that God is there to help and guide you in your unique life circumstance. Lord bless you. Hope you have a great week. We'll look forward to seeing you next week, my friends. Take care. Bye-bye.